you do, because, you know, I was saying before when we had you on and we were trying to figure out the tech issues, and I don't think you heard it because, but like I was watching a scene in Snowden the other day where Zachary Quinto, who, by the way, you look enormously like, it's really weird.
I mean, I'm a little better looking than he is. He's a little older than I am, but in general, we do have a resemblance.
Yeah, big time. But I was watching this scene where, and I don't know if there's any truth to it, where you're going back and forth in the hotel room with Edward Snowden, Laura Poitras, and a reporter from The Guardian. And you're basically standing up to the editor at The Guardian on a call, and you're screaming, if you don't get this shit out by 4 o'clock, I'm going to do it my fucking self. And I thought to myself, this guy has the biggest balls out of anyone I've ever heard, because the woman on the other end she was like telling you, Glenn, listen, I'm dealing with the White House. I'm dealing with the FBI. Just give me a minute. But everyone I know does anything that you do would have said, oh, okay, well, we'll just wait. You didn't. I don't know if that scene is true or if they embellished it, but like, is that really you? Is that really how you carry yourself?
I mean, they cleaned it up a little bit. Like, I think they like made, like, in fact, Oliver Stone purposely sought out a gay actor because I think he wanted to, like, in that scene particularly, like, make it a little drama queen vibe. But in general, like, it was pretty accurate. You know, remember, I had flown across the world from Rio de Janeiro to Hong Kong to meet with, although I didn't know at the time until I met him, a 29-year-old kid who had essentially made the choice to, like, unravel his entire life. You know, we were 98% sure when we were working with Snowden that he was going to end up spending the rest of his life in prison. I saw almost no possibility that he would be able to evade or elude the grip of the United States, the most on the planet, given that he had just handed to us the biggest leak in American national security history, an archive of hundreds of thousands of, if not more, of the most sensitive documents from the most secretive agency of the world's most powerful government. And I felt an obligation to him to do justice to his sacrifice. And he purposely sought me out for exactly that reason. He was afraid that if he had gone to the New York Times or the Washington Post or some more established outlet that was accustomed to maintaining an amiable relationship with the United States government and the security state and thought that that was important, that they were going to end up in endless negotiations where they would be taking orders from the government about what they could and couldn't publish, that maybe they would publish a couple of stories and then the government would say, okay, you've had your fun, you'll win a Pulitzer, now it's time to go do something else. And he felt it was critical that, number one, we defy the government and be willing to publish all of the stories until the very end. But even more importantly, that we created a climate where we said, we're not going to be scared. We're not going to be intimidated. We know that what we're doing is right. And a big part of the story from his perspective and then mine was not so much the revelations about surveillance, but the role of journalism in a democracy, the idea that it's journalists who shine a light on those people in power, and the people in power don't dictate to you how you do that. And so I knew it was very important from the very beginning, since I was working with The Guardian, which was an established institution with lawyers and editors and 200 years of history, to say to them, you know, the energy from the start has to be one of defiance, not one of subservience or acquiescence or fear. And so I'm not going to tolerate, you know, a week or 2 weeks of endless, you know, negotiation with the U.S. government about what we are and aren't allowed to publish. I'm not going to allow you to prolong this and delay it and let the government find us and find Snowden and prevent us from doing the work. Like, this story is ready. It's a story that the public has the absolute right to know. I don't give a shit what the government thinks about it. And if you do, that's fine. You can spend all your time talking to the White House if you want. I'll just go elsewhere and take the story elsewhere and publish it by myself if I have to on a newly created site. And it did put the editor-in-chief of The Guardian in the US in a difficult position, because the editor-in-chief of The Guardian from London was on a plane, unreachable, flying to New York to oversee the process. And so her two choices were publish the story without his permission, pissing him off and the White House, who was threatening prosecution, or lose what was obviously the biggest story in journalism in a decade, if not a generation, because she was too afraid to, you know, give the go-ahead to publish. And I knew she was in that difficult position, and I exploited that on purpose by threatening her with losing the story because I knew that was the only way that I could force her to take the plunge. And, you know, at the end, I don't want to make her sound like a coward. She really wanted to. She was, you know, a very brave editor who stood by the work the whole time, but she was in a very difficult position with that first story because, you know, you're talking to the US government and they're telling you if you publish these stories, there's going to be blood on your hands. You know, that's what they do. They say you're going to be telling the terrorists how we spy on them. You're going to be making us go dark on the people we're tracking in Al-Qaeda. And the next terrorist attack is going to be on your conscience and on your head.